Hi, I'm Asa Kalama. I'm an Imagineer at Walt Disney Imagineering. We're the people who design and build all the cool theme park attractions. Like the one right behind me. Cool, California Screamin'. It's a wild coaster ride that launches you out of the gate at nearly 60 miles per hour. That's fast! Now, I know what you're thinking. California Screamin'? Awesome. This is supposed to be a show about science. Well, it is. And as an Imagineer, I'm happy to tell you that if you think science is only done in the labs like this,
New materials, countless in their numbers and variety.
or is hard to figure out like this, well, the science we're about to explore is a lot more fun than that. It involves imagination, which you already have, and the scientific principles that are zipping around us all the time. As Imagineers, we use science to tell stories to take you to exciting places. And when you start thinking like an Imagineer, you're gonna find out that science is really a lot more like this, and this, and this. So climb aboard and join me for a ride into the world of imagination, inspiration, and science as we dream it, do it. The science of Imagineering. Well, here we are, my workspace at Walt Disney Imagineering, the place where imagination meets engineering. See, everything we do here begins with imagination, a spark of an idea, an inspiration, a notion for something that might be a whole lot of fun. Then we use the science to engineer and create unique and amazing attractions that only Disney can build. And I gotta tell you, one little bit of science that keeps coming up and up and up is trajectory. So, what exactly is trajectory? Well, I think there's no better way to show you than with this. A delicious deep-fried churro, and a little something I like to call
The Churromatic 3000.
It's an idea I came up with when I saw how much our park guests were enjoying their churros. Let's imagine there's a park guest who wants a churro, and he just can't wait.
Woo-hoo, I can't wait.
Hey, we've all been there. You load the churro into the launch chamber, you lick the sugar off your fingers, and before you can say, make it snappy, Gustav, a churro is delivered into the eagerly awaiting hands of... Uh-oh.
Asa?
Oops. And that's why the science of trajectory is so important. One churro, please. Thank you. In a nutshell, trajectory is the path a free-flying object follows through the air, like our delicious flying churro. But as you just saw, to get our churro to follow the right path and to get to the right place, there are a few things we have to consider. First, a flying churro, like any other flying dessert treat or object, is affected by the force of gravity. Gravity is the force that pulls all objects in the universe that have mass toward each other. Let's say for a moment that we could turn off gravity and any other force like wind. Believe it or not, our launched churro would continue to fly in a straight line, in the same direction, and at the same speed, potentially forever and ever. That's part of Newton's first law of motion. An object in motion will stay in motion and in a straight line, but turn on gravity, and all free-flying bets are off. The downward force of gravity alters that straight line movement and pulls the churro to the ground, where I personally would not suggest eating it. When gravity is the only force acting on the object, that object is called a projectile. A projectile is a launched object that moves forward due to inertia and accelerates downward due to gravity. And when gravity pulls downward on a projectile, the curved trajectory is in the shape of a parabola. A parabola is the curved path a projectile takes as it moves forward and accelerates downward. If you launch it at a really great speed, like a satellite, it will orbit in an ellipse because it's falling towards the Earth at the same rate that the Earth curves. And if you shoot it perfectly straight up, then it'll come down on the same path it went up. Now, wind is also an important force to consider when calculating trajectories. But For the purposes of our delicious churro experiment, we're going to imagine there's no wind resistance. So the question is, if gravity here on Earth is always pulling things down with the same force, how do we change the trajectory to get our churro projectile to our hungry park guests?
Hello.
There are only two ways to change trajectory. By either increasing or decreasing the speed of an object during the launch, or by increasing or decreasing the angle at which a projectile is launched. And just for the record, I call 45 degrees the super launch angle, because that's the angle at which your object will go the farthest at a specified launch velocity. Assuming, again, there's no wind resistance. And as a bonus, just for being here today, I'll also tell you that with everything else being equal, the size and mass of a projectile do not affect trajectory. That means, given the same launch speed and angle, an 8-ounce churro will travel the same trajectory as a 200-pound churro. That's so cool! So clearly, to get my churro to our park guest over there, I'll need to adjust the trajectory on my
Churromatic 3000.
I don't have a power adjustment to change the speed of the launch, so I'll have to play with the angle. Let's lower it a little bit. Load the churro into the launch tube and fire away! Oops.
Asa!
Closer, but still a little too far. I'll lower the angle a little more. I'm lowering it so that way it won't go as far. Churro away!
Asa!
Sorry. Just in case. Maybe a little lower. Churro away! Houston, the churro has landed. Now, of course, I could show you that there are many complex formulas used to calculate trajectory. But the amazing thing is, we human beings seem to have a natural ability to calculate trajectory without even using these formulas. All of you do it all of the time. What? You don't believe me? Ever toss your clothes into the hamper? All right, that's probably a bad example. Okay, well, what about shooting hoops with your friends? Think about it. You know where the basket is, you know how hard you have to throw the ball, the launch speed, and at what angle. Without even realizing it, without using any formulas, you're calculating trajectory to sink the ball. And when you calculate the trajectory correctly, you make the basket every time, guaranteed. Through trial and error, through shooting and missing, you adjust your calculation as you go along, until success. Or not. By the way, that's trajectory too. And one really gross parabola. And I won't even tell you what happens if you turn the gravity off.
Asa, how's it going over there?
It's going great. This is my Imagiphone. It's an idea I came up with when I first started here to improve communications with the boss. And it illustrates a very important point about ideas. Some ideas are better than others.
So, Asa, I've heard some rather loud complaining about some kind of flying churro projectiles. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
No, I can't say that I do.
Well, please keep an eye out. We don't want another incident like that flying popcorn stunt.
Asa!
Oh, and before I forget, whatever you do, do not touch that new red button we installed in your cube.
Red button? I so want to touch that button. Maybe later. So, how do we Walt Disney Imagineers put trajectory to work in our theme parks and attractions? Come on, I'll show you. Here we are at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Florida, where trajectory and an airplane have brought me to the Lights, Motors, Action Extreme Stunt Show. This is Imagineer and Stunt Show Technical Director, Gerald Kaplan. Hey, Gerald, want to see me do a wheelie?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, Me too. So Gerald, why is trajectory so important to a stunt show? I mean, I see no churros.
Well, when Imagineering first came up with the idea for doing a stunt show, what we wanted to do was kind of replicate the classic Hollywood car chase, which of course meant lots of high speed, lots of thrills, and car jumps. So to do those jumps repeatedly, day after day, show after show, we had to get very precise about the trajectory, the speed of the cars, the launch angle, everything associated with pulling off a perfect jump.
Obviously, when you're designing elaborate stunts like this, I mean, you don't just eyeball it, you use formulas to calculate trajectories.
Yeah, absolutely. Although humans do have a natural ability to calculate trajectory on their own.
That's what I told them.
So when you're thinking about these kinds of stunts, a great example of how we put something like this together is the touch and go that comes up right in the middle of our show. It's a stunt where our driver gets pushed off course at the very last second, climbs up a ramp that we built inside of one of our trucks, leaves that ramp at the exact speed and the exact angle that he needs to. He lands on the roof of a second truck, jumps across the roof of that truck, and lands safely in an airbag at the end of the stunt. It's really kind of two stunts pushed together into one. So formulas based on trigonometry and physics allow us to plan these stunts very precisely.
Hey, that gives me an idea. Oh, by the way, this is my idea notebook. Every Imagineer carries one. You always want to have a place to jot down your ideas so you don't forget them. Here's a question for you. What do you think about this? What if we were to add another chase scene at the very end where the hero and the villain were on two very different types of vehicles? The hero would be on a bicycle and the villain in a hot pursuit in an old garbage truck. The villain is just about to catch up and he swerves. They both hit the ramp at the exact same time and then jump side by side. What do you think? Could it work?
Yeah, I think that could work. So as long as your garbage truck and your bicycle are hitting the ramp at exactly the same speed, they leave at exactly the same angle, they should follow that same parabolic trajectory and land safely side by side. Although I'm not sure I'd want to be on the bicycle just in case.
Yeah, me neither.
Of course, none of this stunt show would be possible without fully understanding trajectory. So now that you understand how much it applies to our show, you want to try it for yourself?
Absolutely. From right here. What? I still have half a show to host. Now that's an excellent use of trajectory. We also put trajectory to work in the virtual world. Come on. Okay, we've arrived at Disney's California Adventure, and I love this attraction. It's one of the most interactive ones we've ever designed and built, Toy Story Mania. This is Imagineer and senior show producer, Chrissy Allen. So Chrissy, how did the idea for Toy Story Mania come about? I know trajectory plays a pretty big part.
Absolutely, and our guests really love Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, which is based on a shooting gallery arcade style of game.
She really sort of wanted to take Buzz Lightyear to the next level.
Toy Story Mania is our next generation interactive dark ride for the whole family. And what makes it different from Buzz is it's in a virtual 3D environment.
Whether they're virtual or real projectiles, the same principles of trajectory still apply.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, in our computer-generated environment, there's no wind resistance, and gravity is the only force affecting the projectiles. So what we have here is absolute trajectory in an ideal environment.
How do you calculate the virtual trajectory?
Well, when we pull up in a scene, an onboard computer system helps us calculate the trajectory left and right and up and down of the spring action shooter.
So when you're aiming, remember, just like real projectiles, if there's no wind resistance, it's just the launch speed and launch angle that affect trajectory. Okay, so here's an idea.
Okay.
In Toy Story Mania, the ride vehicle comes to a stop. But what if it didn't? Like in Soarin', where the ride vehicle moves forward and backwards and up and down. And you could sort of simulate like you're flying through the attraction on the back of Buzz Lightyear.
Well, that's a really cool idea. I think the difference would be that when the vehicle moves up and down, the trajectory speed would be affected by the movement of the vehicle. And then, of course, there's that whole dizziness factor as you were moving around and you're trying to shoot your target. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea, though.
I'm getting sprayed by something here.
Well, you know, Toy Story Mania is in 4D. This particular game, we're shooting at balloons, and occasionally we've hidden some water balloons in there. So every now and then you're going to get wet.
Wow, that always seems so real. From shooting virtual projectiles at Toy Story Mania to shooting real projectiles into the night sky, I think one of the purest ways to illustrate trajectory here at our theme parks is through our fireworks shows. Here's the guy that knows more about fireworks than anyone I've ever met. Imagineer and Chief Scientist, Dr. Ben Schwegler. Dr. Schwegler, what do you need to know about trajectory to put a fireworks show into the sky?
Fireworks shows are all about trajectories because once you know the final velocity as it leaves this tube right here, then everything follows the laws of physics and they move completely according to gravity just up until the moment that they explode in the sky.
Why is knowing the trajectory of each fireworks shell so important?
Well, there are two things that are really important about the fireworks shows. You need to know when and where, obviously, because you want the shell to be exploding just at the right moment with the music. So all those fireworks follow the basic laws of physics so that we can get to the when and where with perfection. You couldn't do that without a precise knowledge of the trajectory of each of the fireworks shells.
Gravity always stays the same, and we know there's a fixed angle of launch. How have you gained more control over the launch speed?
In this particular case, we use compressed air to launch those shells. Here's the compressed air tank, there's a little valve, this tube. We can control precisely the velocity of that shell the moment that it leaves this tube. Knowing the mass of the shell and knowing the speed, everything follows the laws of physics.
Is the trajectory also happening inside the shell?
This is a cutaway section of a fireworks shell, and all of the little stars in here that make the pretty glowing lights that are in time with the music that tell the story that we love. These also follow the same laws of trajectories.
And each following their own parabolic curve.
Once the shell explodes, these go off also in their own trajectory. So we have multiple examples of trajectory for every single shot that we shoot.
Sit back and enjoy. Here's an attraction that uses the science of trajectory to launch something other than solid objects. Yes, liquids. We're at the leapfrog fountains here at Epcot. These are an excellent example of trajectory. We're actually looking at water parabolas. Gravity pulls down on the water molecules just like it would any other projectile. And that's what creates the nice parabolic trajectory that you see. So how do we create this? Well, water is normally very turbulent. So we've developed a special technology called laminar flow heads. Laminar flow heads settle the water molecules down and create a nice, smooth, parabolic stream. The pump drives water up into the bottom of the laminar flow head. In here, that's where those water molecules settle down, finally shooting out of this nozzle at the tip. The pump drives the water up through the nozzle, and that's what allows us to set our launch speed. Next, the pitch of the nozzle is adjusted to allow us to set our launch angle. As soon as the water shoots out of the nozzle, that's when gravity takes over, and you get that nice, smooth, parabolic arch. Got it? This is Principal Special Effects Designer and Imagineer Chris Bodden. I once heard a story that there had actually been plans to have a giant wave of water go over the track at California Screamin'.
Yes, that's true. We did have a conceptual plan for that, and we need to make sure that the science can back up that idea. The idea was to have a wave of water crash over the ride train, kind of like a surfer going through a wave, you know, shooting the curl, and it would have been very thrilling.
What happened?
We were concerned that if there was a stop on the ride vehicle, that there might be a lot of water over guests' heads. We didn't want to get them all drenched. A little bit of water is fine, but a lot of water can make people uncomfortable.
A little water leaping from pad to pad, that's a whole lot of fun. Another example of how trajectory does stuff. Drinking trajectory. I so want to touch that red button. Come on, what could it hurt?
Asa, did you ever find out anything about flying churros?
No, I can't say that I did.
So what did you do today?
Well, we learned that although trajectory sounds like a difficult scientific principle, it really isn't. When you boil it down, trajectory is really all about the speed and angle of a projectile's launch, and how much gravity constantly pulls projectiles down. And the cool thing is, most of us have been experts in calculating trajectory for years without even realizing it.
Sounds like a good day.
So, can I push the red button now?
Isn't there something you're forgetting to show our friends?
That's right. Come on. We started here, and we should end here. California Screamin' at Disney's California Adventure. We're talking serious trajectory. This is Imagineer and Blue Sky Ride Development Principal Engineer Dave Crawford. Now, Dave, roller coasters aren't really projectiles since they follow a track. But can you tell us how trajectory still applies?
Well, understanding trajectories is really important for roller coaster design because it allows us to give guests that zero-G free fall feel at various points in the ride.
Zero Gs is a term often used to refer to the feeling of weightlessness.
We use it at the top of the lift after you launch. You launch out of the gate at almost 59 miles per hour and straight up a ramp. As you go over the top of the parabolic arc, you get a bit of that sense that you're coming out of your seat. It also happens at various other points in the ride when you go over the camelbacks.
Would it be fair to say that the longer we extend that parabolic arc in the track, the longer we get that weightless feel?
Definitely, as long as the vehicle is on a parabolic arc or the trajectory path that it would be on without the track there, you're going to feel like you're weightless. Typical roller coaster constraints force us to cut those a little bit short. The space constraints usually make us do a shorter parabolic arc so that we feel like we're coming out of our seat a little bit as we go over that arc, and the track pulls us back down.
Like any other trajectory, the two major points to consider when designing that first parabolic shape are then the launch speed and launch angle.
That's correct.
Well, you know, Dave, in the name of science, I say we give it a try. Ah, perfect. Yeah, science is fun! So there you have it, the science of trajectory. I hope you'll remember that everything starts out with an idea. If you follow through with your ideas, science can be the means to turn them into reality. As we say at Imagineering, dream it, do it. Oh, but wait a minute. I've got one more thing I gotta do. Come on. I just gotta find out.
Asa!
Well, that was trajectory 2. See you next time.